to another Minecraft Conquest Reforged video. Kinder Knight here, and I know it's been a while since our last video, but long story short, I've moved and bought a new gaming PC, and it's just marvelous. And so I've been taking some time trying to get everything set up and going. But we are back on the map of Yarowyn, building up our second castle here, LindusCliffe. And as you guys can see, it's built way up into a mountaintop, way out of reach and range of siege weapons such as trebuchets and siege towers. And now, to give you guys a little bit of background lore, the father of the Lord of LindusCliffe was a very wealthy and prominent lord. He owned many lands and had many vassals and lesser lords paying tribute to him. His wealth, position, and power was so coveted that a couple of his trusted vassals conspired to have him murdered in an attempt to gain control of his lands, with his son, current Lord of LindusCliffe, narrowly escaping with his life due to a lack of trust and the fear that an attempt on his life again was imminent. When taking over his father's lordship, the Lord of LindusCliffe, out of his paranoia, had commissioned the building work of LindusCliffe Castle. Alongside his paranoia, the Lord of LindusCliffe, though being very wealthy, is very frugal and conservative with his money. In most cases, not paying a cent over for anything that he deems as unnecessary. And this is quite evident through the design of his castle, as he felt a single tower would more than suffice with a landing and crenelles, rather than opting for opulence, but more so for practicality. To protect the stone and mortar, a simple gray plastering was applied alongside the towers and the walls of the battlements, and a whitewashing on the castle keep and its buildings. Despite its modest and simple design and defenses, LindusCliffe Castle serves as a very dependable fortress, virtually impregnable. Okay guys, so there you go. That was a little lore on this build, and as the lore mentioned, Lord Lindus did not build this castle in such a way as to show off his wealth. Showy displays isn't really priority. In fact, even the plastering was done only out of necessity to help preserve the stone and mortar. And so the main purpose of this castle is to keep him and his family as far away and out of reach from his potential enemies and traitors who would want to steal his fiefdom as possible. And so I think I really did a good job at nailing the design of a castle of such a concentric man, being very paranoid, cheap, just wanting to be closed off from the world. And I'm really happy with the results of how it came out. But that was enough talking from me guys. I'm gonna go ahead and let this video finish off, and I'll be back to give you guys a tour of the castle grounds. So sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Alright, and we're back. And by the 360 panning shot, you can see that I've added quite a bit to the build off camera. I honestly just didn't have the time to do everything on camera. But so here we are, and we are near the bottom of the causeway leading up to the castle. And I just want to take a sec and just have a look at how simple but yet still very imposing this castle looks from down here. Just look at how its single tower just towers over the landscape. Now imagine yourself as an enemy army, and you're trying to take this castle by force, and you're fighting your way up this causeway, this mile-long causeway, and you're being met with arrow fire and crossbow bolts from the defenders on top of the battlements and the walls, and due to the terrain and the steepness of the causeway, you wouldn't be able to use any siege towers to get close enough to use as cover to get close enough to the walls to maybe get in that way. And so any invading army trying to assault this castle would just be completely destroyed on its way up. And so now we come to our first gatehouse with a drawbridge. Obviously, during an attack, the guards inside this building would raise up the drawbridge, cutting off any possible access to the castle. And those beams would be pulled up through a mechanism inside the walls that are connected to the chain, which would obviously raise that drawbridge. And so if you were an army, if you did manage to make it this far, again, You won't be able to get any further than that because the big wooden drawbridge door would be up and secured, and you'll just be a sitting duck sitting here, which means you'll have to retreat back down that mile-long causeway while under fire from the defenders. So yes, this is very defensible and I really like it. And if we step inside, you can see that we have murder holes. And I know you're probably wondering, what's the point when attackers would never make it this far? But in some scenarios, if they wanted to deal a really particularly hard blow to the attackers, instead of just letting them or giving them the chance to flee once the drawbridge was up, some would be allowed to enter where they would be ideally obliterated by the murder holes, or if not from the first set of murder holes, then surely from another. Because you guys will see that the further attackers are allowed to advance, the more their fate is sealed. Because simple in design this castle may be, but its defenses are effective. And so we're going to go ahead and make our way into the first gatehouse, where we have our drawbridge mechanism. And now I wanted to keep this as simple as possible, and as you see, it's pretty practical in design. As you can kind of tell, we have some counterweights and some chains, which would raise up the drawbridge when they need it to, and those big counterweights would lower into those kind of potholes in the ground. And if we come right here, we have our murder holes right here where we can drop our stones and shoot arrows or pour hot sand on our attackers that are trying to storm this castle. And so that's about it when it comes to that. We'll go ahead and move on. Go ahead and make our way to the second gatehouse. Again, if attackers were allowed to keep advancing, they would be met with arrow fire from this point, from their flank here, and also from behind along those battlements over there. And also there will be attack from the front of the tower. And again, we have more murder holes. And then you come into this courtyard where, like I said, the deeper you go in, the more doomed you are, because here you're pretty much just a sitting duck for target practice. We have arrow slits on all points where the defenders can fire at you, and now you're in range of that big tower up there, and I don't think that this would be a very good place to be if you're an attacker. You really have no other options other than to flee back and meet those murder holes again, or to try to fight your way in here, return fire if you can, but for the most part you're pretty much done. There's nowhere for you to go. There's arrow slits everywhere, and you're going to be having all types of crossbow bolts and arrows just raining down on you in this little courtyard. Yeah, so you wouldn't have a pretty ending at all. In fact, you would be assured to have a very untimely demise, kind of like a snare. The harder you struggle, the more your fate is sealed. And here, we make our way here, we have our one and only portcullis gate, and this is to kind of cut off your access, and you can't go any further than this once this is lowered. So again, you're just kind of boxed into this little kind of death area. You can try to make your way back down and go through those murder hole sections again, but again, once that drawbridge is up, you're just going to be pretty much trapped within these few courtyards. And here in this tower, we have some murder holes, and again, you can drop your stones or shoot arrows down, bolts, or maybe even throw down spears at whoever's stuck in there or passing on through. And if we go up this stair, you get a view of how it would look, just if you're the defender and you're having to man these battlements and just firing at whoever's coming. So again, this castle is very simple, but its defenses are very assured. So we go ahead and close that door. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and make our way through this portcullis here so we can check out some more of the inner parts of this castle. And as we move through this portcullis, we see we have some murder holes here. And again, like I've mentioned, at this point, if we have any attackers left and their morale isn't already severely shaken, these doors would be closed and the portcullis would be lowered, and that would become a little kill zone, whereas anyone left would be definitely destroyed. And so from here, we just have a clear shot into the castle bailey. Now that we passed up all the defenses, we're gonna go ahead and enter here. And one thing you guys notice, we have no murder holes. there's no purpose, no use for them, so we don't have them. So now we find ourselves entering into the castle's inner bailey. This is where all the activities and work and everything goes on to keep the castle running smoothly. We have quite a bit of things going on inside the inner bailey, so we're going to try to go through it and I'll explain what's going on. So right here we have a chicken coop, so we can always have a supply. The castle can always have a supply of eggs and chicken meat. The egg being a very important resource, being they probably use it as an ingredient for baking their bread. You need eggs. And here we have our horses stables where the Lord keeps his steeds and keep his war horses. And again, we have a trough for the horses for them to drink. And as you guys can see, that we don't actually have a well, and that is because the fact that this castle is built at such an elevation that they could not dig deep enough to have water being supplied. But this castle was built on top of a underground cistern, and when I take you around the castle, you'll see that we have a lot of these little pipes that extends from the roof, and they're there to catch any rainwater, because obviously if you've ever been to the mountains, you know that it's really wet and really rainy most of the time. And so being at such a high elevation, there's lots of water just in the clouds that would rain, and so those little pipes would collect that water and trickle it underground to keep the cistern underground going and good. So because of that, also the Lord has a water mandate where everyone is entitled to a certain amount of water, and that's based on their class and their position at the castle. And as you see, we do have a lot of logs strewn about, and they're being covered to keep dry. We don't have nearly as many logs as it would take to keep a castle like this going, but they are there to represent that we do have logs. And here we have a dove cove, very important, because during a siege, if we couldn't get any other food, all they would have is pigeons constantly flying and nesting in there. And if we come over here, we have our barn where we keep some livestock, some pigs, and as you see, it's very simple, very what you would expect, I guess, from a little barn where you would keep livestock. And over here in this little space, we have a little room where maybe the groomsman of the horses or whoever handles the livestock, maybe he sleeps here, and it's very modest, very small. But what do you do when you're a low-ranking peasant or servant? So we go ahead and close that door right there. And so now we're gonna go ahead and make our way over here in this direction and check out, I believe, the blacksmith area. And we have a blacksmith that's resident at the castle. Again, the castle's position and where it's located would make it very difficult for a blacksmith to travel here to do any work when he's commissioned. So instead of that, the Lord has a blacksmith here that stays at the castle, and he's responsible for repairing the horses' shoes. And because, again, the castle Lord is very paranoid, our blacksmith is constantly making weapons and repairing weapons. So this is his little work area where he has a basin of water to quench his steel, to harden it. His forge is here. As you seen before, he has a little ingot over there, and he has a grindstone to sharpen those swords and axes and halberds and whatever it may be. And over here we have some charcoal that's just there for fueling our forge. And right here we have a big cart where we have charcoal that's being brought in. Maybe the Lord commissions a wagon of charcoal maybe once a month, so his blacksmith can always have that fuel to keep maintaining those weapons and horseshoes for him. And before we move on, we'll just head over here to this little resting spot that the blacksmith has, where he can just come over here and sit and have a drink and just kind of, move away from that hot forge when he needs to be. It's a very simple little setup, but it works for him. And so that's pretty much the inner courtyard to inner bailey section of the castle. I think we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move along to the battlements, and we're gonna come back to the interior of the actual castle in the part 2 of this video. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and I think we're gonna make our way to the battlements. We're gonna go through these doors right here. And now that we're out on the battlements, as you guys can see, we have some arrows and bolts already ready to go, and they're stationed at intervals along the battlements. Right here we have some braziers, so if we wanted to just light an arrow, or I guess an arrow, and we can fire that down on our enemies and create fires and just kind of cause confusion and chaos and just kind of lower their morale. And as you guys can see, we also have these braziers set up at intervals along the wall as well. So at any position, our archers can always, you know, light their arrows and be able to fire them, and not have to be running back and forth to a single brazier to, you know, ignite their arrow. And so that's that. And again, we have our tower right there, our single tower. But before we check that out, we're gonna go ahead and make our way down this little section right here. And this is how we get into that one gatehouse with the portcullis. And as you see, we have our portcullis mechanism. Again, I tried to keep it as simple as I could to make it make sense, at least to me. So I guess the way it works in my mind is you would need 2 men to man this gate, and they would need to have a level of synchronization where they would both, on a count of 3 or something, pull down on these levers, which would release the mechanism inside the chains, lowering the portcullis and such. And to bring it back up, they would use kind of like a cranking motion where they would just crank it up and down, you know, until the portcullis is risen back up. So that's just kind of how I guess justify it in my head. And so yeah, I tried to again keep it as simple as I can. I always try something different whenever I do a gatehouse. I never do them all the same way. I like to try to change them up to try to fit whichever lore or whichever castle I'm building on. And then down here, as expected, we have the murder hole entrances where we have some stones here, and as you see, we have arrows everywhere in this place where we can easily grab and, you know, defend it as well. So again, this castle, I will say it again, it's very simple, I think, but I feel that its defenses are really strong and really dependable. It fits the lore, how our lord, he doesn't really want to spend money on anything overly lavish. Everything is practical in his mind. Otherwise, he doesn't want to spend any money on that. So we're going to go ahead and make our way to the main and only tower. But before that, we're just going to go up on this kind of little landing area, and you guys can kind of see how it would be for defenders if they had to defend this tower. Again, you can imagine anyone coming up this causeway would be completely destroyed by bolt and arrow fire being fired down on them from these battlements. So again, this castle is very defendable. It holds a very strong position, and it does its job very effectively. And again, it has 360 views around the landscape, so we can always know who's approaching and what's going on outside the castle. So we're gonna go ahead and make our way into our first tower, and we come in. There's nothing too special here. We just have some supplies right here, and I guess it's pretty much what you would expect of a tower. It's just winding stairs that goes all the way up to the top of the battlement on this particular tower. And one thing I would like to mention is, if you guys notice, I did design this tower in a way where it's actually defensively effective, because back in the medieval times, they would have designed their towers to go clockwise, and that's for the reason that most people in medieval times used their right arm, which was actually their sword arm. And so coming up a tight stairway like this, if you're someone trying to take this castle, your right arm would be blocked and you wouldn't be able to use it. But the defender coming from the top of the stairs would have his right arm free, so he's able to swing at you and just defend this castle effectively. I know this castle isn't necessarily as tight of a space as it needs to be, but it's Minecraft and I did the best I possibly can. And as you see, we have working windows that go along the perimeter of this castle where you can look out. And I used the stair block just to kind of give you a little bit more of a vertical view. And I think it came out real well, and I think I did a good job. So as far as that goes, there's not much else to see other than just to make our way all the way to the top from this point. So we're gonna go ahead and just go up these stairs. It's a lot of flight of stairs. Any attacker, if he was to make it, he would be really tired and fatigued taking this castle because it's a lot of climbing involved. So we come into this room here, and it's a little guard barracks. We have a table so they can have a break and maybe eat some food. We have some little hay beds on the floor, a little area where they can maybe take a break and play some cards when they're not on patrol duty. Of course, we have some crossbows at the ready, so we can grab those if we needed to, and get to the walls real fast. Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's a pretty basic kind of setup for our guards. It doubles as a place for them to sleep, as well as a place for them to eat, and also they can still guard the tower. So we're gonna go out this door here onto the landing, and as you see, again, these battlements, we are way up here and we have views and we can shoot arrows down on anyone trying to take this castle. You're pretty much it's a death sentence. And just a little Easter egg, if you guys see those little pigeons right there, you may not see him, but we have a hawk right here, and he's just kind of watching these birds. He's getting ready to make an attack and catch one of them. I just kind of added that there just for a little bit of laughs. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's our castle. I think I showed you everything. I think we're gonna go ahead and save again, like I said, part 2, the interiors of the castle, for a second video, just because it's so much and this video is already long as it is, and I really wanted to get something out. It's been a long time since I was able to post anything, and there's a lot going on with the interiors, and it's a lot to show you guys, and I just really don't want to rush them. I just want to have a video, one whole video dedicated to those interiors for you guys. I put a lot of work and effort into my interiors, so yeah, again, I just wanted to just have one whole video that's just dedicated to those. Alright guys, so that was part 1 of our tour of LindusCliffe Castle. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and now that I'm all settled and situated, I hope to start posting regularly again. Also, I have a really cool project I've been working on that I would like to show you guys. It's already finished, and I'm just waiting just to post it, so you guys can expect something along those lines in a couple of weeks or so. Also, I would like to thank all of you. As of today, at the time of this video being made, we've hit and are over 300 subs, and that is just so awesome. So I would like to thank each and every one of you for sticking around and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and it really does mean a lot to me. And as always, please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and maybe even share it with your friends. It really helps the channel and helping it to grow. Also, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of this castle. Let me know what kind of builds you would like to see in the future. Also, I know quite a bit of you guys asked for a tutorial of the castle in my intro. I am working on it. Just want to let you guys know it's going to take some time, so please just bear with me, guys, and try to be patient, and I'll have that ready for you guys soon. Also, don't forget to turn on that red notification bell if you are subscribed, so you don't miss any future Minecraft Conquest Reforged content. This has been the Kinder Knight from LindusCliffe Castle, and I bid you a farewell.